All right, today we're putting on our detective hats. Our mission, to crack the code of the law itself. We're going to figure out how judges and lawyers look at a law, a statute, and decide what it really means, sometimes years after it was written. So let's jump right in.
I mean, you'd think so, right? It's written down in black and white, so case closed? But here's the real puzzle we're diving into today. If a law is written in plain English, why on earth does it need to be interpreted at all? And the answer, well, it's way more fascinating than you might expect.
So let's tackle that big question first. Why even bother interpreting the law? Well, it's because words, even the ones that make it into our official rulebooks, can be surprisingly shifty. They can be ambiguous, and that's exactly where the real detective work kicks in.
Okay, first, let's get a key term on the table, a statute. All that means is a formal written law. You could just think of it as the official rulebook for our society. But what happens when a rule in that book isn't 100% clear?
Let me give you a classic example. Picture a park, and at the entrance there's a sign. 4 simple words, no vehicles in the park. Seems totally obvious, doesn't it? But let's push on that a little bit. What exactly is a vehicle?
What about an ambulance that's racing to save someone's life? Surely that's okay. Or a kid rolling by on a skateboard. How about a toddler in one of those little toy electric cars? Or someone just riding their bicycle to work? All of a sudden, that simple, clear rule needs a judgment call. It needs interpretation. And that's precisely why we need a whole system for figuring out what the law really intended.
So, how do our legal detectives even start an investigation like this? Well, they start with the most obvious clue right in front of them, the words on the page. And that brings us to the first and most fundamental rule of the game.
This first tool in the kit is called the grammatical, or more simply, the literal rule. This is always the starting point. You can think of it as the legal system's version of just read the instructions. The whole idea here is super simple. Just give the words their ordinary everyday meaning. You start by assuming the people who wrote the law meant exactly what they said. No secret codes, no hidden messages, just face value. So for our park sign, this rule tells us to do one thing. Go look up the word vehicle in a dictionary. But what if that dictionary definition leads to a result that's just weird, or even totally absurd? What happens when following the rule literally actually creates more problems than it solves? Well, that's when our detectives have to pull out some of their more advanced tools.
For instance, what if the dictionary says a vehicle is anything with wheels? Are we really going to tell people they can't bring baby strollers into the park? Or wheelchairs? Of course not. That would be ridiculous. And this is a perfect example of why just reading the words on the page isn't always enough.
And this brings us to 2 totally different ways of thinking. We've got the literal rule, which just asks, what do the words say? But then there's the mischief rule. Now this one asks a much deeper question. What problem, or mischief, was this law trying to fix in the first place? Was the park rule about stopping noisy cars, or was it about stopping absolutely anything with wheels? The goal here is to figure out the law's original purpose and make sure you're serving that purpose.
Okay, let's add another cool tool to the collection. This one is called harmonious construction, and it's all about looking at the law as one big puzzle and making sure all the pieces fit together without contradicting each other.
Think about it like this. A law is a complex machine. You can't just stare at one tiny gear. You have to see how all the parts work together. So if you find 2 sections of a law that seem to be saying opposite things, your job is to find a way to read them so they both make sense. You want the whole machine to run smoothly, in harmony.
So, we have these rules of thumb. But where else can a good legal detective look for clues about a law's real meaning? Well, sometimes the best clues are hiding in plain sight, right inside the law itself.
These little built-in clues are called internal aids. They aren't the main rules of the law, but they help you understand the main rules so much better. They're kind of like the chapter titles or the introduction in a book. They guide you.
So, what do these things look like? Well, the full title of a law can tell you its overall goal. The preamble is like an intro, setting the stage for why the law was even needed. Even the little headings above each section give you context. None of this is just filler. It was all put there for a reason, to give you clues about what the lawmakers were thinking.
And this is a fantastic illustration of the point. The very syllabus that this whole topic comes from is structured this way. It has a main title, right, interpretation of statutes. Then it's broken down into units, with headings telling you what's inside. Those headings aren't the rules themselves, but they organize everything and tell you exactly what's coming. Statutes are built the exact same way.
And you know what? It doesn't even stop there. Our detectives can also look for clues outside the text of the law. These are called external aids. We're talking about things like official government reports or even the recorded debates that happened in Parliament when the law was being created. It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at what the writers were trying to accomplish.
Which brings us to our last big question. After looking at all these rules and tools and all these different kinds of clues, what do you think? Is interpreting the law a precise science, where you just follow the steps and get the one right answer? Or is it more of an art, something that requires good judgment, a feel for the situation, and a real understanding of what people were trying to do? That's definitely something to think about. Thanks for digging into this with me.